Welcome to the Ogles channel, thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy Color game, and today I focus on a game called Wario Land Part 3. Now, I never had any of the Wario Land games growing up. I had Mario Land 1, Mario Land 2, and I always assumed the Wario Land games were probably pretty similar to that, but truth be told, it's a totally different genre of games. Mario Land is very much of a platforming adventure, and this is sort of a platforming puzzle game is the best way I can describe it. And it's a very good game, it's a very creative game, but at the same time, it's going to be a very frustrating game as we journey through trying to finish the entire experience here. Now, Wario Land Part 3 did get moved up in the queue a good bit because Jordan Gieske, he requested on one of my earlier videos, and so naturally, when someone requests a video, we move that game way up in the queue. And Wario Land's a little bit different because it's one of the most requested games of probably any Game Boy game out there. I know at least 3 or 4 people have requested Wario Land on other videos, so it's about time for us to finally jump into and journey through Wario Land Part 3. Now, I'd like to start the videos off by looking at the box art for the game first, and the box art for Wario Land is pretty darn phenomenal, and it's mainly due to what's in the background, which is going to be this little music box. Now, the music box is very core to the story of the game itself, but I love how they've actually designed or done the artwork for the music box, because it's not just simply computer animated or traditionally animated. It is all done with claymation, and it just looks amazing. I love how they have the temple there, the peaceful village, even Turtle Rock in the bottom right hand corner. This is the kind of thing for gaming collectors out there. If you could find someone who's made this music box, displayed on a shelf, something like that, this is a phenomenal little piece of artwork, and I love everything about the music box. However, the cover is not just that. It would have been better if it was. You also got Wario right there in the front center, looking like, Wario. And something that just annoys me about this is he's holding his fingers up like that, has the W over it. And the W is not on his fingers. You can see it just sort of it's pasted on there like a PNG file. And it just sort of blurs over onto the background. And man, I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the way Wario looks on it. The design for the logo, that's fine. That's whatever. But Wario himself, man, they should have cut him off the cover and just simply let it be in the music box. And the cover would have been one of the best Game Boy covers of all time. But regardless, the cover itself does summarize the game pretty darn well as far as what the map's going to be, what the levels are going to be, and who your main protagonist in the game is going to be as well. But let's go ahead and dive into the actual game. Now, when you start it up here, you have Wario flying in his little airplane here. The engine blows up, he crashes to the ground, sort of plops out there, and then of course the tile screen pops up from there. And if you wait a little while, the little tutorial will start at the same time. And the tutorial is not really necessary. The game's pretty self-explanatory for controls, especially early on in the game here. But the title screen itself is a fine little title screen. The music in the background is not my favorite, and this game here is weird when it comes to the soundtrack. Some songs are going to be phenomenal, some of the best on the Game Boy Color, and some are going to be completely forgettable and a little bit on the annoying side. And so it's sort of the extremes on both sides when it comes to the soundtrack, but the title theme is just simply not one of my favorites. Now, when you start up here, it continues the same story from the intro. As Wario, after he crashes his little airplane, he goes into a cave, and inside that cave is a music box. And the music box, somehow or another, sucks him into the box. And when he's inside the music box, now he's in a temple, and there's a mysterious figure who says that he is the god of the world, and an evil force has locked him away inside of this temple, and he can never escape until 5 music boxes are collected and played for him, and then he can basically, return to his former glory. And if you help him find all 5 music boxes, he will give Wario all the treasure that Wario can find inside the music box, and then send Wario back out into the main world with all of his treasure. So it's a win-win, it seems like. You're helping out this friendly little god inside of a cave, and also Wario's going to get all of this treasure, because we all know Wario loves his treasure. And so it's a win-win on both sides. And so Wario's now going to have his main mission of journeying throughout the entire map here, trying to find these 5 music boxes. Then we journey out of the temple, and we have our first look at the overworld or the map here. And I love the way the music box looks inside the overworld or the map. And the music in the background is pretty darn good too. Nice little simple tune playing in the background. But the world's going to continue to expand. This is not the entire map. It's going to continue going basically from left to right. And there's going to be a lot of backtracking, so you're going to get used to seeing this map constantly. And the map's also going to change a lot depending on which different items that you collect. It's going to have different effects on different worlds, and you may have a little explosion, or a little crack in the world, or maybe snakes are going to appear. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen to the overworld map, but it's a cool looking map in its most simple form as well. Now, the only level that we can go into initially is going to be called Out of the Woods. So we head on in there, and you're going to notice first off, the animation in this game is pretty darn top notch. You can tell it's definitely a later Game Boy Color game, just simply because how advanced it's going to be. But you go into this world and you got your basic controls. You can jump, you can ram different objects, you can bust different blocks from that. You get different coins from these blocks, and the coins aren't like super useful except for when you play like the mini golf game, which is coming up later. But you're going through, and the controls are all pretty basic here. The enemies that you're fighting against have a bit of a creative side to them. I love the little blue one here with the little needle nose because it reminds me of an enemy from Dr. Mario. I don't know if it had like any inclination from that or any holdover from it, but there's a virus in Dr. Mario that looked very, very similar to this particular enemy. You also have spiders that are shooting little webs out at you. The enemies are going to vary a lot in this game, but the enemies in the first level are already sort of starting the creative side of it. And I like what I'm seeing. Now the enemies, they are able to attack you, the environment is able to attack you, and there's some really cool animations that are going to happen, like when you are attacked, like when you turn to little flame Wario here and you run across the screen. And there's almost nothing more adorable than when the end of the animation comes to a close and you're sort of a flame cloud here, or a flame bush with little eyes sticking out the front. It's pretty darn adorable. And also like the animation when Wario's trying to swim in some of the waters. He's struggling a good bit. Also pretty adorable. The animations are really good in the game. But I did notice, like, when I catch on fire, I get hit by an enemy, or I fall off an edge or anything like that. I did notice, like, I never die. And I started realizing pretty early in the game, you actually cannot die in this game. It's impossible to die. You get knocked back, you have consequences as far as like having to redo areas of the level, or you get knocked out of rooms. Things like that is going to cause a lot of backtracking, but you actually cannot die inside the game. The only times you can actually die in the game is going to be at the very, very end when you fight the final boss, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. That's the only time you can actually die and have a game over. But anytime you're in an actual level, you just simply get knocked back, you have consequences for your hits, but you never actually take damage, or you never die. Now I did end up finding a gray key in the level, and I'd hit pause, and there are going to be 4 keys you have to find in every single level to unlock 4 separate treasure boxes, and there are 8 music notes that you can find, or music note coins that you can find in the level as well. The music note coins are completely optional, and some of the chests will be optional throughout the game as well, but a lot of the chests are going to unlock items that are going to unlock different levels across the map, and so you are going to have to find the majority of the chests in the game. I think it's like 60 something maybe. I can check that at the end of the video here and put a look in the caption down below. However, I do have the gray key, so I'm searching for the gray chest opened up. As I'm journeying through, I do find there's a tree in the background who looks like a angry version of Wispy Woods out of Kirby. And the angry tree is going to play a point or part later on in the game, but I do enjoy his little animation here. Some fun little caterpillars inside the level as well. And I finally found the gray chest. I open it up, and inside is an axe. Now the axe has a little cutscene after you finish the level, and it's going to show in the overworld where you basically cut down some areas and some new levels are going to open up for you to explore. And you can go to either one of these levels, or you can go back to the level you just came out of if you want to try to collect more of the treasure chest. However, you don't necessarily have all of the abilities or all of the items necessary to collect all the treasure chests in level 1 yet, and so you're going to have to go ahead and explore the rest of the map until you unlock some new things, and then come back to the very first level. It's somewhat like a Metroidvania in a way, because you are getting new abilities or new level modifications, and that's going to allow you to go back into the levels you just came out of to find new items and new treasure chests. And so there's going to be a lot of backtracking in the game, and some of it's fun, some of it's going to get a little annoying, but it is a little bit of a Metroidvania. So then I head on into the peaceful village, and just like in the first level, like you catch on fire, have a little animation from that. You have different enemies in this level who are going to also cause animations on you. You have this one little enemy who basically like throws donuts at you, and Wario eats the donut and just, expands to an enormous size here. He can barely move around. However, when he's in this size, he can actually bust certain blocks open, and by busting these blocks open, I'm actually going to be able to get the first gray key. There's also another enemy in this level that basically has a giant hammer. He smashes you down, and you basically become like a spring Wario, where you sort of bounce across the level, and you can reach different areas that way as well. And so the game really is very creative in this aspect, because it continues to modify the playing ability, whether you can be caught on fire, unlock certain areas, you're going to be, become enormous, to unlock certain areas, you can become like a spring, to unlock certain areas, and this is just like the tip of the iceberg. The game's going to continue to expand these abilities as it goes, but through this I am able to collect the gray chest. I get this weird little item here, and initially when you get most of these items, you actually don't know what they are, and I thought at first as I was playing in the game it was just simply because of the poor Gameboy graphics, or the ability of what they could put into a sprite, but that's not really the case at all. I think the game does it on purpose, and sometimes you're going to get some items and they're going to look really weird, really out there, but then when you actually see how they combine with other items, you're like, oh, now I got it. And so our first one here, it looks like a, I don't know, like a sliver of a moon or a piece of a cookware or something like that. And so that's our first item. And then I head on into the next level, which is going to be the vast plain. And they're continuing the enemy variety here. You have this giant ghost like comes down and sort of blinds you for a while. You know, pretty creative on that. You have this mad scientist who's throwing out a little test tube beakers at you. And if you end up catching one of those or eating one of those, you become invisible. And when you're invisible, you can actually like sneak through like certain areas of the game. And you can actually sneak through and you can actually get the key, which is going to allow you to then open up the chest. And then we get the other half of the first item. You know, we get a very similar looking item to our very first one from the chest, and you can combine those two, and that's going to form basically like a little tablet or a key. It has a little cutscene of putting that key inside of a door. It opens up the door in front of the little hill here, and now you have more areas to explore. And that's what I mean by like you collect items out of these treasure chests, you use them to unlock more areas inside the map, and it's just going to be a continually expanding map pretty much the entire game. So then I go into the next level called Desert Ruins, and this is like a Middle Eastern type level. Actually has some pretty good music in the background, and there's one like crazy enemy in this level. It's like a robot that shoots a blade out at me, and it like slices Wario into two separate halves. It's actually pretty darn violent looking for a Nintendo game. It reminds me of a horror movie from the early 2000s. I think it was called 13 Ghosts, and there's like a glass door like closes on somebody, like cuts him in half. I'll see if I can put the clip of it here in this video. Hopefully it won't get me demonetized or anything on this video for that. But it's a crazy scene inside the movie, and it's just weird to have like something like this inside the Nintendo game. And as far as I can tell, like this doesn't give you any special powers or anything like that. It's just simply a hindrance to try to knock you back a little bit. Now in the Desert Ruins, this is the first level I actually get the red key in the chest, as well as a silver key in the chest, or a gray key in the chest. And both of them basically give me two halves of a scroll here. And the two scrolls are then put together, and they're going to basically wisp away the tornado on the map. And so you're going to open up yet another area. And then we head into the volcano's base, and this level is essentially trying to get you to learn one particular move in the game that you're going to utilize a lot, and it's the ability to stand on a little hill like this, press down, and you turn into a little ball that's going to roll down the hill, and you can bust through all kinds of blocks and fit through all kinds of tight corridors in order to get to certain areas or certain items in a level. And this particular move was shown off in the tutorial, so if you skipped the tutorial, you wouldn't necessarily know this move. And it's very vital inside the game, and so some players might get stuck if they didn't actually watch the tutorial. But all you have to do is simply press down, turn to a little rolly ball here, slam through all these blocks, you get the gray key, and then you have to sort of think about where you want to roll to next. You know, use your environment to the best of your abilities. This is probably one of the hardest puzzle levels thus far, and it's going to lead you to the first boss inside the game here. And this boss is pretty darn easy. As you're looking at it here, it's obvious where you have to hit him. It's a flashing barrel, and all you have to do is get your ram move up, slam into the flashing barrel, and do that for every barrel until it goes down to the bottom, slam into him, and then the boss is pretty much destroyed. And there's a little floating hammer up here. You simply hop on the floating hammer, takes you to the top, open up the gray chest, and then you get your first power up inside the game, which can be a new set of overalls that a Wario is going to be able to wear. And this particular set of overalls is going to allow him to learn a new move, which basically is the ground pound. So he can jump up in the air, press the down button, and he will slam down. And this allows him to bust certain bricks inside the game, attack certain enemies in the game, attack certain bosses. So I'd say it's a pretty important move that you're going to be learning, and I'm glad you learned it so early on. But it's also at this point I started wondering, like, well, where do I go to next? Because no new levels opened up, no new scenarios happened on the map. And I was trying to figure out, like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, after every level you finish it, if a new area doesn't open up, the game actually does a little cutscene that has like a little sparkly over certain levels inside the overworld. If you pay attention, those are the levels that you're recommended to go to next, because your powers are going to allow you to access a new area in those levels. Now, if you don't pay attention to the little sparkly areas, which I understand sometimes there can be a whole bunch of sparklies that happen all at once, if you just simply go back to the temple and you talk to the mysterious figure or the god there, he will tell you exactly like which level to go to next to advance the story as fast as possible. And I should have realized that earlier on in the game, because sometimes I did sort of wander around aimlessly a little bit, trying to figure out like what to do in certain levels and just replaying a lot of them. But the god inside the temple every single time will tell you exactly where to go and will streamline the game significantly if you just simply utilize him. So it's recommended I go back to the very first level, which is out of the woods. I go there, and sure enough, there's a little mole there on the ground, and you just simply now can ground pound him with your new move that you learned, and you can slam him straight down to the ground, and it's going to lead you to a new area inside of this world. And as you're traveling through this, you're going to come across a little block here that basically says a mini game on it, and you cannot actually get past this block until you find the mini game, win the mini game, and then the block will of course lift up to allow you to advance. So you search through, you find a little mini game room, you go in there, and you can spend your coins to play a golf game. And the golf game is really darn simple. You have this little meter at the bottom, and you basically just wait for it to go all the way up, press the A button when it gets to the point, the power meter that you want, and when it comes back, you have to hit in a little bitty red zone on the left-hand side, and then Wario will lean back, hit the little animal here, the little enemy, and he'll fly off, and your goal is to try to get it inside of the hole. Now, there are obstacles on the course, like there's water hazards, there's desert hazards, there are bush hazards, and so you have to look out for all of that as you're going through it, but truth be told, the minigame is pretty darn easy. You just simply have to time how hard you want to hit it based upon how far the meter goes across. But once you do win the golf game here, the little mini game block lifts up and you're able to continue on and now get the red chest inside the level, which is going to give you a little blue pot, which you're like, well, what does this do? Well, somehow or another, the blue pot allows for a rain to come onto the overworld map and open up 2 more worlds that you can now explore. But before I went to that, I did go back to the vast plain, and I went through the vast plain again because I had the new pound move, found a mole in that level, knocked him down, found a new area, got these stinging enemies that when they sting you, I guess you have a allergic reaction to it. And Wario's not carrying around his EpiPen like he should. Bad Wario, you should know better for your own allergies. You swell up and you're able to sort of float around the level until you hit the ceiling, and you're able to finally come across the red key and open up the red chest. And when you do this, you get like a crayon item. Once again, these items are sort of far out there, and it somehow like does something to the volcano base over there, the cave. I'm not really sure what happened at this point in the game. That was a weird little section. Usually I could figure out like what the items did, what they looked like. This one, I don't have a clue. That was a weird one there. But I do have some new levels I can finally go and explore. So the first one I go to is called Town in Chaos. And I mean, this is truly a town in chaos because it's got these ice polar bears or frigid bears wandering the streets. And when they can shoot you, they shoot you with a little ice blast. You turn to a little, little frozen Wario. You slide off until you finally hit a wall, and then you bust the ice off around you. They're going to become a bit of a nuisance as the game progresses, but they are sort of cute, sort of cuddly the first time you see them. There's also these zombies that can throw their head at you. If the head hits you, then you become a zombie. And anytime you go over a certain platforms or certain areas in the game, you will then sort of disappear, or I guess like melt through that platform and then appear below that. And this is going to be, once again, a tactic to make you backtrack certain areas in the game. And so like every time you have an ability where you turn into something, yes, there are certain occasions where you can use that for your advantage, but most of the time it's going to be to punish you, to make you redo several minutes of gameplay to get back to that one area again. There is a zip line inside this level, and the zip lines are pretty darn fun, but you eventually get the key to treasure chest, and you open it up and you get a little blue gear. And once again, random item that you're going to utilize somewhere later on to open up a new area. So you're just collecting all of these items. And if at any point you want to see like what all the items you've collected, on the main map, just simply press select. You can see all the different items that you've collected thus far, and also a tally like what percentage wise to 100 that you've collected. And then I journey into the Pool of Rain level, and this level here is most notable for this one particular puzzle section where you basically ground pound these little poles here, and when you do that, another pole will rise up higher in the air. And you sort of have to figure out like which 2 poles are connected and jump on which ones to push different ones down to get your best stair step jump as you go. And I don't know, it's not like super difficult, but it's a little bit annoying because there's some spots where you have to get like a dash jump, and you're on this itty bitty platform to get this dash jump, but it's possible. But it's annoying. You get the key somewhere along the journey here, you get to the end, and when you open up the chest, you are going to get the other gear. You put these 2 gears together, and it opens up an elevator in the overworld, and now you can take the elevator to lead you into an entire different section to explore more areas. And it's here that we get to go into the grasslands, and the grasslands is going to introduce us to yet another annoying enemy here, which is going to be the bird that can slam into you and essentially makes Wario drunk. I mean, he is stumbling left, he's stumbling right, and you end up just falling into holes, and it is annoying to the absolute max because there's no benefit to getting drunk inside the game. It's not like you can, access a new level, anything like that. This is designed purely to knock you into holes, to make you redo a large portion of the level all over again. It's incredibly frustrating. But as you're journeying through here, you do come across an area where an enemy can basically squish you down, and you become this little, almost like a paper Wario, and you're sort of floating through the air like a feather. And by doing this, you can finally glide yourself over there, get the gray key, and when you get the gray key, you can continue on journeying through the level, and you're going to come across another boss, which is basically a giant earthworm here. And when he comes up to you, all you have to do is like ground pound him. Once again, a really easy boss. And when you do this, like his eyeballs like pop out. It reminds me of like the 90s, like Ren and Stimpy and stuff like that. It's very much of that gross out 90s humor. And also like when he's killed, look how like scrawny the earthworm is here. Like I don't know, like I got a kick out of it. It's just a really funny animation. But after you defeat him, you go into the next little spot and you open up the gray chest, and you're going to get to your very first music box inside the game. And so you're going to be collecting 5 music boxes. So we have 1 down, 4 to go. And it's also when you play the music box after the little cutscene, you are going to get a new level opened up called the Big Bridge. And so we are continuing to expand the map more and more. Now it's at the Big Bridge. It's going to feel very much like a Mario 1 game, because it feels like the cheeps are coming out and trying to attack you. Because as Wario is journeying across the bridge here, these giant fish are going to jump up, try to hit you. And if they hit you, once again, you don't die. You just simply roll all the way back to the beginning, and you have to do the entire thing over again. And there's like 4 fish on the bridge, and you have to time them all just right. And once again, it gets frustrating because you're like, after 4 or 5 times of trying, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to cross the bridge. Like, just let me get across the bridge here. But you finally get through the bridge. You're able to open up a new chest. You get a seed or a gourd in here. I guess it is seeds, because seeds scatter across the map in a little cutscene, and then little vines grow out of certain levels. And so the map is ever changing. But if you go back to the levels that had these seeds, pop out of them here, or these little vines grow out, now in the actual 2D levels, there can be a new vine that you can climb inside that level. And so it's just so cool how they continue to modify the map, modify the levels as you're going, to allow you to continue to explore and find different things inside every single world. And so it's very much of a Metroidvania, but you're not getting as many like new items yourself as far as like new weapons. You're just simply finding new items to modify the world you've already come out of, to explore new areas. So I go back to the pool of rain, which obviously had a giant vine beside it. There's a giant vine inside the level. I climb the vine and continue on through that. I find a treasure chest, open it up, and I get a demon skull. And it's like, what the heck? I mean, like, why is there a demon skull in Wario? Things are just so random here. But I did get a demon skull out of this chest, and so then I continue on to the next vine level, which is going to be the grasslands. And sure enough, there's a giant vine inside the grasslands now that I can climb up on. And a journey through, I get the red chest in the grasslands, and I'm able to actually get an item out of this, which looks like little wheels. And these wheels fit on a minecart in one, I think is a volcano-based level, and you're able to now take the little minecart and explore more areas inside that world. So naturally I have to try it out. So I head over there, get on the little cart, and sure enough, the little cart, it's running around. I'm able to go through here. I go into one room, there's like these little bats journeying around, and if you touch the bats, you become Vampire Wario. And this allows you to not just simply be a vampire, but you can also turn into a bat, and you can simply fly around different parts of the world. And so once again, so much creativity went into figuring out like all these different powers, all these different abilities, how you're going to get them, how they're going to be used inside the levels. And I just love experimenting with it and finding all of these. They're a ton of fun until they cause you to like backtrack. But when you first find them, it's generally just all thrill and no, punishment. And so Vampire Wario, pretty darn cool. But I continue riding the little minecart here, eventually get to a key, the treasure chest, open it up, and I get a pacifier, I think. Once again, might have been, might not have been. The items are just so random, it's hard to know exactly what they were. But I have one more vine level to go to, so I go back to the vast plain, use that vine, climb to a new area, and there's this giant sun that's coming around. It almost reminds me of the sun in Mario 3 that's trying to kill you. Like, what is up with the Mario games, like making the sun be some sort of evil arch enemy? I don't know. It's almost like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons when he wanted to block out the sun, because he says man's destiny, or man's goal since the beginning of humanity was to destroy the sun. Maybe this is why. Maybe he played Mario 3 or Wario Land and was like, yeah, let's get rid of that sun. But the sun can essentially shoot these little fireballs at you, set you on fire, make you redo the entire level all over again. And so the sun is going to become a very, very frustrating aspect here. But if you can get up there, you can avoid all the obstacles, you can avoid the sun setting you on fire, you eventually get the key, get the chest, and you get a second demon skull. And once again, like, why a demon skull? I don't know. But Wario wanted to mess around with the occult a little bit here. He got a demon skull, and now he's opening up a new area called the Tower of Revival. Now when the tower comes up here, Some reason or another, it reminds me a lot of the tower from Lolo 3, which actually the whole map like reminds me a little bit of Lolo 3 a little bit. Truth be told, like even the music box sort of reminds me of that. I don't know, there might be some more similarities between those two games. I'll have to look at that a little bit more later. Now when you go into the Tower of Revival, it has a flame puzzle because you have one little pillar over here with a fire on it. You catch yourself on fire and then jump from platform to platform to light all of the other little pillars here. And once you light all of them, a little flame block is going to disappear, and then you can advance inside the Tower of Revival. This was a cool little flame puzzle the first time you did it, but every time in the future when you're trying to do something inside this level, you have to do that puzzle over and over and over. And after a while, this puzzle gets it gets a little tiresome. But regardless, it's a cool puzzle for the first time. You go through it, you find the treasure chest here, you open it up, you get flippers, and now Wario is able to swim inside the game. So now he can actually get into the water, he can go down, he can go up, he can explore all these different areas. So now we have all these levels we can go back into that we've already come out of and explore more to see if we can find some more treasure chests. So then we go back to one of the most water-based levels, which was the big bridge. And of course we go down beneath the bridge, we swim through it, you know, dodge through all these little fish, these little obstacles, find some more ice bears as we go. And we finally find a treasure chest through here, which is once again another like crayon maybe. Like these are weird ones. Maybe it's an eraser, maybe that's what it is. And it's gonna do something to the cave again. Man, it's just such a weird little item here that you get. I'm not really sure. If you know exactly what this item is, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm just not really sure. And then we go to the other water-based level, which is the Pool of Rain. And this one definitely has more of the swimming puzzles that we were hoping for with the flippers to really, you know, get our feet wet and to experiment with it. And as you're going through, you actually find another boss battle inside this level. And it's going to be a giant wolf who essentially is going to try to puff you up with spike balls and blow you away. So I guess sort of like a fairy tale to a degree. And you use the little bombs here, you know, to take him out. He's not too bad of a boss, and when you defeat him, you actually get a treasure chest with a fan inside, and the fan on the main map will then blow some bushes out of the way to open up some new areas to explore. And so I guess that one sort of aligns with the boss a little bit. You know, back to the fairy tale, huff and puff and blow your house down, huff and puff and blow some bushes away. I guess makes some sense to a degree. But the new level that opens up is called the Stagnant Swamp. We go into there. Not really the most exciting level. I'm not really big on the swamp levels in general, thanks to, I guess, Dark Souls for all of those swamp levels we've gone through. But regardless, you go through here, you find a flute inside this level, and when you get to flute, it plays this horrible, horrible song. I mean, it's just awful to listen to. I'll play it in the background right here. And when you do this, it allows, I guess you're like a snake charmer, because then these little snakes come out of the baskets, and now all the levels with little baskets beside them are all going to have snakes that you can utilize to reach new areas inside that level. And so once again, modifying it to make you go back to them. And so now we have 3 snake levels we have to go back and visit. So the first one we go to is the grasslands, and I've already expressed my dislike for the grasslands with the little birds that sort of make you drunk and sort of journey around. Well, they're still here, and it gets more obnoxious because now you're trying to go through more of the bird areas. You get caught on fire by the snakes sometimes, who can breathe fire down on you. You're trying to journey through all this, and man, like, my gosh, like, I just wish sometimes, like in this game, you would just simply take damage, because then you can continue on where you're at. Because you're journeying through all this, you get so high up into the trees or in the grasslands here, and then you get hit by a bird, and then you simply have to go all the way back down to the beginning, redo it all over again. And it's like, my gosh, like, this game, it gets very, very frustrating, and it's starting to hit around that point at this area of the game, because so many of the little powers that you get are no longer to help you through certain areas. The powers are simply there to make you backtrack to not advance very quickly. And so up to this point, very creative, very fun game, very innovative, but now they're using all those innovative, creative things to make you sort of almost hate the game to a degree. And so it's a weird flipping of emotions inside the game. What you did love at one point, now you're becoming to the test and just really wish it didn't even exist, and you could just simply take damage in order to continue on through the level. But eventually at the end of it, you get like a flower wand, which I don't know how that makes sense for the snake level, but that's our new item on our random Wario bingo. Then we go to the volcano's base. These snakes are way easier. They didn't really breathe out fire at all, at least from my experience. I'm not sure if they can't breathe out fire or they just simply didn't. But in this level, you go through it way, way easier than the last one. You get to the end and you get a pink crown. And you're like, once again, random Wario bingo at its best here. Then we go to the third snake level, which is the peaceful village. We go through here, we eat the donuts, we blow up again, we bust some areas, we get the treasure chest, we get a book out of it. And somehow, you combine the scepter or the magic wand and the book together to do some sort of a freeze blast, and you're able to freeze over the water here and create a new level called the Frigid Sea. I think they're stretching a little bit here. I don't really think these go together at all. Maybe it's like a magic book and you learn the spell, the magic wand. I guess that's exactly what it was. But still, I don't know. That's a bit of a stretch, at least in my opinion. So then we journey to the Frigid Sea, and sure enough, wouldn't you expect it, the little polar bears or the ice bears are here to make your life absolutely miserable by freezing you, knocking you all the way back to the beginning. And if you go through all these little journeys of, annoyances to get by all the little polar bears or the ice bears, you finally get a treasure chest, and you get a brand new hat, which is going to look like a Koopa Troopa or a Bowser back or a Bowser shell, and it's going to allow you to essentially jump up and bust blocks of your head. So you're finally getting the power that Mario has had since like Mario 1, Wario can finally do now thanks to this Koopa shell he can place on his little head here. So we're slowly expanding our powers more and more. And you can see down at the bottom there how many powers we have to go. And there's a lot that you learn throughout the game, but most of them are just simply upgraded versions of what you already have. Then we go back to the town in chaos, because that's the one that blinked after we beat the last level. We go in there, our new power, able to bust through some blocks. We get the red treasure chest, or I'm sorry, the red key, and we go off and we fight a soccer match now against a hare and a tortoise. The tortoise is the goalie. The hare is trying to, basically stomp you down, turn you into a ball, throw you into the goal. And this is a good bit harder than it appears. It took me several tries to actually finally win this particular soccer match. Once again, you don't die. They simply throw you out. You have to journey back to the part of the level to play another match. And you have to get 3 goals before they get 3 goals. And you can finally win this. And once you win that, you're able to journey up on top of the little turtle shell here. You get to the top and you're able to get a second music box. And wouldn't you know it, opens up another swamp level, because hey, there's never enough swamp levels in the world. So you journey to the bark of the Wild River. And this looks like it's straight out of the swamps of like South Carolina here, or maybe swamps of New Orleans. It's very much of the swamps of the southeast United States here, especially of the the little critters and whatnot inside the background. Not necessarily my favorite level, but it's not simply a really hard one. But you journey left to right, you get the key, you open the chest, you get Poseidon's Trident, which, I mean, there's no words anymore to emphasize like how random the items are in this game anymore. But we got Poseidon's Trident. Then we go back to the title coast. We have a new little puzzle here as far as like catching yourself on fire, having to go through like particular fire blocks. And so we have that. It's going to repeat itself more times throughout the game. But as you catch yourself on fire, go through here. And at the close of this level, you actually get a book. And the book you combine with Poseidon's Trident to call down the Greek god Zeus. And his lightning bolt is going to create a grand canyon or a steep canyon inside the map. And so I guess to some degree we're messing with the Greek mythology at this point now as well. I mean, we had the occult with the demon skulls. We got the Greek mythology going on. We got the snake charmers going on. We got, I mean, the Wario Land. Like, my gosh, like they're really going all out. But that's a steep canyon. We get our first look at a new enemy that's going to appear multiple times. There's these little water hands that are going to come out of the water, try to grab you, and then pull you back down into the water. And wouldn't you know it, the current's going against you, so you can't really swim against it. So it's just simply something to make you redo a large portion of the level all over again. Not really my favorite level, because you do have to really focus on the rolling mechanics again, going down the little hills and simply getting yourself into a little ball. You have to jump over multiple little platforms to bust certain little rocks or certain little blocks. And these are the type of levels that just simply make you redo parts of it over and over and over. Like, if you were really like skilled at the game, you could probably have this level beat in like, I don't know, like 2 minutes. But if you're not skilled at the game, or if you're your first time playing it, like me, it takes probably like 15-20 minutes just simply to go through the level, not only figure out what to do, but then to master to be able to do it and not have to redo it like 10 times over to finally get there. But our treasure chest that we open gives us the power glove, which allows us to finally pick up enemies, which is going to allow us to pick them up, throw them through particular blocks here. They have a little symbol that looks like someone's being thrown through it. You can throw them through that, and you can now access different parts of the worlds that you've already gone through. Then we head over to the Tidal Coast, and the Tidal Coast, like, they brought back one of my least favorite puzzles in the game, which are the bubble puzzles. So you're journeying down through the water here, and the water's already sort of annoying. I never enjoyed water levels a lot. And you're journeying down, and as you're journeying through it, these little bubbles come out. If you get trapped in a bubble, it sends you all the way back to the top of the surface here. You journey all the way back down through the puzzle again here, the water again. Get trapped in another bubble, all the way back up to the surface, or all the way back up to a little, top of the ceiling. And like, you have to go through this so many times trying to avoid the bubbles. And I understand, like, you can try to time it better, but like, after trying it like 2 or 3 times, you begin to get in a rush because you're frustrated with the puzzle. You just simply want to get through it. You're like, not again. And the faster you are, the more likely you are to make a mistake, and then you're more likely to redo it again. Then you're more frustrated, makes you want to go faster. it makes you lose again. It's just a vicious cycle here. And so like the game really did know like how to, at least for me anyway, push my buttons of like repetition of trying to like get me annoyed on this game by saying like, didn't do it quite right. You better do it all over again. Didn't do it quite right. Better do it all over again. And so like, just let me take damage and keep going. Like just this repeat part of the game, not for me. But when you get to the end, you get a treasure chest and you get a large green foot out of the treasure chest. And so that's our newest item. So then we go back to the stagnant swamp, and of course the water level has dropped now, and we can actually journey through different parts of the world. And as we're journeying through here, you actually get to one part that I think is just like absolutely awesome and probably one of my favorite parts of the game. You find this little turtle here, and this turtle looks like he is in his elder years, like this near-death turtle, and he is barely moving. You hop on his back, and you start journeying through this little level here. And the turtle, out of nowhere, just like abandons you. And then you sort of fall into the water and you sucked back. And you're like, what the hell happened there? Why did the turtle just like disappear? Did he finally like bite the dust on the one instance that I chose to ride him? I don't know. So you go journey back through it again. You hop on the turtle's back. You journey into it and you hop up on the little, I guess, sort of fence here. And you're going to stay here. And the turtle's going to disappear. And an enemy is going to come out and try to attack you. Now, what is this enemy? I thought it was like a beaver or like an otter. But like, I don't know. Like, this is a weird looking little mammal of sorts. I literally have no idea what I'm fighting here. And so we go through it. All you have to do is simply let go for a second, come down, stomp on him. And of course, once you stomp on him, he, sort of takes some damage. And after 3 of those, he's defeated. And after he's gone, guess who shows back up? Your little elder turtle. Elder turtle shows back up. You hop down on him and you continue riding on to the end of the level here. You can open up the treasure chest and you're going to get a set of green diamonds. And so now I guess Wario is getting some treasure for taking out this otter looking mammal. Then we go to the volcano's base. I'm not going to go through all the puzzles here because some of the puzzles are starting to repeat pretty darn often. We get the ghost-looking lima bean out of here. Then we head over to the steep canyon. And in the steep canyon, mostly the same puzzles once again. And in the steep canyon, we get what looks like part of a dinosaur tail. And somehow you combine the dinosaur tail with the diamonds, with the ghost lima bean, and somehow the volcano erupts. So the volcano erupts and we now have a new level to go into called the West Crater. And so we can finally journey a little bit more into the volcano. Now the West Crater, wouldn't you know it, it's going to be more of a fire-based level taking place inside of a volcano here. You actually have a couple of fire-based puzzles where you have to catch yourself on fire, bust through some little fire blocks. You actually have to make yourself turn into a little silk Wario from the little worms here. You have to slide through or blast through certain little walls. And when you go through all this, the treasure chest inside of the volcano, I thought when I first went through it was going to be a cat eye, like a little glass cat eye. Turns out it's a little glass serpent eye. There are no cats in this game. Well, right there is going to knock a point off the game, right? And so we have these little snake eyes that we're collecting. So we get one of the 2 snake eyes that we need. Then there's the colossal hole, which is a giant hole in the ground. And we just simply fall pretty much straight down it, which is fairly fun actually. And then when you get stung when you get to the bottom and you float all the way back up to get the key, and then you come all the way back down, that's when you open up the chest and you get your second snake eye. And so I have to say the colossal hole, as dumb as the level sounds, was probably one of the more fun levels in this later stretch of the game. But the 2 snake eyes, they fit together inside of a door, and they open up a new door inside of the Tower of Revival. So now we can head back to the Tower of Revival and explore our new area. Now the Tower of Revival, you have to go through the little intro puzzle again, and then you have to go through a lot of puzzles focusing on like zombies, catching yourself on fire, eating some donuts. It's the same puzzles like pretty much over and over for a lot of the game. It's just simply advancing to get these new items, and this new item we're going to get here is a piece of garlic. And the garlic is going to also allow us to learn a new move, which we can now break normal blocks. And so this is a pretty big deal. But we also have access to a brand new area inside the game. We now have access to a level called Sea Turtle Rocks, which is probably one of the best looking, coolest levels in the game. It's this giant rock here. It's actually on the cover inside the music box. But basically you have this giant rock and you simply have to ram into all different parts of the rock, and you're slowly destroying the rock, burrowing yourself further and further deep down into it. This level here, I don't know, I just found it fun just simply being able to destroy pretty much all the walls inside this, find different passageways. Like Sea Turtle Rocks was probably one of my favorite levels inside the game. And when you get down to pretty much all the way into the bottom, you go through these doors and you fight a squid or octopus down here at the bottom, and sort of mixed with a jellyfish to a degree. And all you have to do is sort of bonk it on the top of its head, then swim down and hit him on its belly, and do that 3 times, and the squid is gone in no time. And you follow the little platform up from there. It's like a little halo almost, or maybe it's like a little life raft, and you jump on that, you float on up there, and you're able to get your next music box. Now I have 3 of the 5 music boxes, and we are getting closer and closer to the finish. Now at this point in the video, I'm going to go through the levels a little bit faster. If there's a unique puzzle, there's a unique enemy, I'll spend more time on that level, or there's something new about it. But if it's just simply the same puzzles and getting an item, I'm just going to go through it pretty quick. And so next up we have the Cave of Flames. Pretty much the same basic puzzles as always. We come out of it, we get a crystal staff. We go into Sea Turtle Rocks after this. We got a new enemy in here. It's almost like a, I guess like another mole or maybe another little ground mammal. He throws us out like little apples. It actually looks like something that'd be like of a puzzle game almost. Feeds us apples and has the same effect as like the donuts earlier in the game. Through this level, we were able to get our next snake eye, so we're obviously working to unlocking more areas inside the Tower of Revival. I go back to Big Bridge again and play another mini golf game, which is like the 4th one inside this game. I mean, you'd think they'd think of some different mini games. Mini golf is fun, but it's like it's the only mini game inside the game. You go through this and I actually get like a little Game Boy from the chest on here. I don't know what the Game Boy does. I don't think it did anything pretty much the entire playthrough. But I got a little Game Boy, or maybe like a little Pocket Pikachu, because it's a little yellow looking one, almost the same shape as a Pocket Pikachu. I go to the Frigid Sea. I get some sort of flame prize out of that. And then I'm actually a little bit of a loss, like where to go next. So I go back to the temple, and he tells me to go back to the Big Bridge. So I go back to the Big Bridge again, and I find a lantern. So I can combine the flame and the lantern together, and that unlocks the Castle of Illusion, which was hidden behind the hill. So all it took was a little lantern to unlock this entire magical castle that had hidden itself under the ground here. And as much as I sort of poke fun at it, I sort of love it at the same time. And so now we have the Castle of Illusions. And this particular castle is actually one of the more fun levels, because you go into every single room, there's like a little switch, and that switch opens up like little blocks that you can hop on. Go into another room, it opens up more switches or more blocks, and you hit the switch, hop on those blocks, and you simply go from room to room to room, hitting these switches, open up more blocks. And I don't know, it's simple, but it's fun. And so I actually like the Castle of Illusions pretty well. But journeying through it did open up a chest, which gives me a new pair of overalls and allows me to do a more powerful ground pound, so I can now just bust regular blocks to open up more areas to explore. And where better to test out this brand new powerful ground pound than the Sea Turtle Rocks, where we get to destroy like everything. We go through there, we find another chest, we get the little, it looks like a little bear paw or bear claw. We go through there, we get that, we head over to the Desert Ruins. And the Desert Ruins this time around has one of my favorite puzzles in the entire game, because you become Vampire Wario and you have to basically turn to a bat, and you have to travel up this entire corridor and avoid the light that's coming in from all of the windows here, because obviously light, is damaging to vampires, and that will kill you, and you have to fall back down and do it all over again. And trying to fly through here and avoid all of the light, I don't know, like there's just something about it, because I enjoy Vampire Wario to begin with. I enjoy that they took the time to actually put the vampire's weakness inside the game, and it's just a cool looking level. And so to me, easy puzzle, but honestly a lot of fun. But then you get to the boss of the level, who I'm going to call the Harpoon Balloon. And he's really simple. He's this giant balloon looking fella who has these harpoons he's throwing at you. And all you have to do is simply pound him on the head, and then he spits out this little spring looking thing here. You pound on that, and it causes him to have like a little miniature explosion. You do it 3 times, and he blows up. And then you move on from there, and you're able to get the second bear claw, or I thought it was a bear claw, actually turned out to be an owl claw. And now you can unlock owls in various levels. Now the owls, when you go back to these levels and you find the owl, they can actually pick you up, and you can fly through these levels in different areas, and you have these obstacle courses and things like that to avoid. And it's a cool little mechanic. I'll give them that. The game was getting a little bit on the sameness side, or samey side, and they brought the owls in. I'm like, all right, you pull me back in a little bit. I like flying around with the owls. I do. So then to test it out, I go to the Colossal Hole. I find the owl, and sure enough, a cool little obstacle course to fly through with the little owl on. You get through that, you find a little treasure chest. You get the Pegasus boost out of it, which allows you to have a higher jump inside the game. So now you have an elevated jump as long as you press the up button. If you don't press the up button, you don't actually get to jump any higher. So you got to make sure you actually hold down that up button as you're going. But once again, you're getting new powers, new animals. I mean, they are keeping up, trying to throw new things at us throughout the entire game. Then we go back to the Stagnant Swamp, where we really do use the boosted jump quite a bit here. And there's one part that really did annoy me, because you have to take these enemies and you pick them up and you throw them down. You have to hop on the enemy with your elevated jump to get to the next level. You do all that to get to the very top of the tower, and then you realize you were supposed to carry an enemy with you the entire time to finally get to the green key at the top. And it's like If I had known that, I would have carried an animal the entire time up there, an enemy all the way up there. But I didn't know that, so I didn't do that. So I had to go all the way back down to the bottom again, pick one up, and go through the entire tower again. It's like the game knew what they were doing here. They were trolling you for a reason. They were just trying to get you a little bit more annoyed because they're like, you think you know what to do in this puzzle? You think you got it? Nah, you ain't got it. Sorry. But then the boss in this level is actually a really easy boss, pretty fun boss. It's a pirate, and there's 4 little skulls that are scattered across the environment here. All you have to do is ram into the skulls, and it slowly lights the environment up. If you can destroy all 4 skulls before you can replace any of them, you defeat the pirate. Really easy, pretty fun boss battle. And then you get the 4th music box, so we're only 1 music box away from being able to awaken the hidden figure inside the cave. But by playing the music box, it does open up a brand new level, which is Beneath the Waves. We go down there's a bunch of ziplining puzzles, and those aren't my favorite inside the game either. You do these ziplining puzzles, you roll through, bust some blocks open, and you finally find your way to a treasure chest, which gives us like a little blue bell or like a little blue detonator. And it turns out it was a detonator. And so when you detonate it, it does blow up part of the mountain again. So you have another crater to explore. And so then we go to the Cave of the Flames and bring him back for the first time since like the very beginning of the game. I've almost forgot about the puzzle altogether. The guy who can throw out the little test tubes to make you invisible. You have to use this and then use it immediately after that. Catch yourself on fire to come back up, journey through another level, then get invisible again, then go through that, and you can finally go through all of that, and you unlock a treasure chest that gives you like a blue sack. And so you're collecting these items, but they really underutilize the invisible guy here, because some of these puzzles are utilized like constantly throughout the entire game. The invisible guy with the test tubes, beginning of the game, this level, and that's it. You never see him any other time in the game. Then you go back to the colossal hole, you use the snakes as well as the owl. You're able to get your treasure chest. It has a toy train in it, so you're collecting that now. Then we go back to the stagnant swamp. And the stagnant swamp here, this one was sort of infuriating, like figuring out like which walls you're supposed to destroy, blow up. And at this point I realized like something that have been really cool inside the game. Like I wish, like, you know how like in Mario 64, when you go into a portrait and it gives you a star, it gives you like just a little hint of how you're going to get that star by what the mission is titled. I wish when you went into these levels again and you're going for like the red chest, it would title what that particular mission is to give you just some like a little bit of a hint of like where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do. Because some of these levels, like you just wander around for like 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out where have I been to, where have I not been to, where do I need to go, what do I need to do, which walls do I need to randomly hit to try to bust open to find this corridor. This one was one of the more ridiculous ones, but a hint or a title of the mission would have gone a long ways, and I think would have made this game significantly better in the long run. But in the stagnant swamp, we do get a blue tornado. You combine this with the train somehow, and you have this massive wind that comes through that's going to modify some of the levels even more. And this little wind mechanic is done pretty quickly, because when you go back to Out of the Woods, you're journeying through it, you have these little leaves that are blowing through the air, and you have to hop on them. And that's going to lead you to a treasure chest to get a better fin, so you can now swim against the current, which is a pretty big plus. Then you go back to the steep canyon, and the steep canyon introduces a new enemy pretty late in the game here, but it's this little blob looking fella with little spikes on his back. You pound the ground, he flies up in the air, and then he sort of floats back down. You can use him as like a platform when he's floating. You can also try to get into the areas that he was, covering up a little bit. And so a decent little obstacle course inside this level, and you do get a telephone for your trouble. Then I go back to the bark of the Wild River, and in this level, I got really puzzled here because I earned a magnifying glass from defeating the level or finding the treasure chest, and that allows you on the main menu to hold the B button, and it pulls up a menu for like the magnifying glass. And I couldn't figure out like what to do with this menu. I tried, scanning around on it. I don't know what to do with it, and I haven't looked online for it, and so there's probably an easy explanation. But I still have no idea like what this magnifying glass did for me. But I at least collected it and allowed the map to sort of turn red for at least a little while. I'm not really sure what the effect was. But then I go back into the bark of the Wild River and I journey through the little vines and whatnot again. And I come across like the ugliest fish like you ever did see. I mean, look at this little fella. And then to top it all off, like he likes to eat like molded cheese. So I mean, there's another reason not to like this little fish. Actually, this little fish here and Wario seem like they would probably be pretty good friends. I mean, you can't tell me that you don't think Wario enjoys some molded cheese at the same time. But all you have to do is ride this little dragonfly back and forth, which fits in well with the southeast aesthetic here. And you just simply hop on these other little bugs and drop cheese down there. The fish eats the cheese up, and then of course unlocks the end part of the level, which gives you a chest. Which you open it up, gives you like a little witch creature that's allowed to build like little fence walls. And these little fence walls are now built inside the Tower of Revival. And so they are continuing to manipulate the environment all the way to the close of the game here. And so you are now finally finishing up the Tower of Revival here, which is where we're going to go to next. And sure enough, in the tower, you can see here a little patchwork of your little helper here. And you can journey up all that area. You can actually find a little map inside the green chest. It's going to open up the East Crater. And so now we journey over into the East Crater, which is, for the most part, the same puzzles here, except for this giant frog. And you have to move the frog up vertically by simply doing your little ground pound. And every time you do that, it sort of bounces up a little bit higher and higher and higher and higher, so you can finally use the frog to jump over and to get the key. And of course, at that point, you're also going to have to figure out how to catch yourself on fire and then burn through one of the frogs, because the frogs can also catch on fire. And by doing all of this, you're able to finally get into the chest, which allows you to get the final glove here, which now you can pick up the heaviest of enemies. And so you're slowly upgrading yourself more and more. And then we head off to the Frigid Sea, and just when I thought I'd seen all the powers in the game, all the upgrades, they bring in a new one for literally one level and one instance. You get to become in this level for the first time Snowball Wario. You just simply stand here and a little snow's going to drip on your head, and you sort of become like a little bit of a snowman, and you start rolling down the hill here, and of course you become a snowball, and it gets larger and larger, and you can finally blast through these snowball blocks. And so it's one very specific sprite for one very specific instance in the game, and seems useless to most people, but I'm very glad that they did, because I liked it quite a bit. And by doing this, you do get the tea kettle, and so we are, like I said earlier, playing ourselves a Wario bingo. And then we head back to the Castle of Illusions, and this part here, they actually hid the key behind like one of the walls, and it's not like you have to do anything special, you simply have to jump behind the wall, and the game pauses for a second to let you know you picked up the key, but you don't ever actually see the key unless you hit the pause menu to see the key, and you're like, okay, now I can continue on to get the red chest here. By doing this, you actually get what the sprite looks like a little cigarette, but it's actually a torch, and you can use the torch to burn part of the brush here and open up a new pathway for Wario to go on, called the Forest of Fear. Now, in a game where you cannot die, Forest of Fear doesn't really, mean as much to you. They should have called it the Forest of Annoyance or the Forest of Frustration, because you have these endless amount of vines you have to climb on. And if you make one misjump and you hit one little spiky ball or hit one little enemy or one little bird, you fall all the way back down to the bottom and you have to do it all over again. And I spent a ridiculous amount of time in this forest, and it's not like I didn't know how to do the puzzle. I knew what to do. It's just simply like takes you forever to get the platforming literally just perfect in these levels. And I don't know, this is one of my least favorite levels in the game. But by journeying through it, you are able to get like a little pocket mirror, and it opens up what's called the Warped Void. And the Warped Void, I'm not even sure you actually have to do this level in the game. I did a couple levels in it, or at least one level in it. And it's not really what I thought it was going to be. I thought like when I heard warped, it was going to be like, like crazy and sort of, disconjointed and whatnot, warped as far as that. No, it means there's a lot of like warp zones inside the level. And it actually looks a lot like something like a Contra to a degree. You even got like Bowser's head on there too. I'm not really sure what's going on in the Warped Void. I think it's more of a post-game content, because I was able to finish the game up without doing anything else inside the Warped Void. I did get one treasure chest, which was like a steering wheel or a wheel you're going to be able to turn a gear on. And so I'm not really sure you have to do this level or not, and so I'm not going to journey too far into it. And so I go back to the temple, the little god there, or the little forbidden figure or the hidden figure. At that point, he tells me to go to the Castle of Illusions. I go there. Pretty much the same normal puzzles that we've been doing all the game. I get this little pile of sand, and I blow the little pile of sand across the environment here, and it goes in front of the mysterious looking tree, or the angry tree from the very beginning of the game, like the angry wispy woods. And at this point, he opens his mouth up, so now we can go back to the level, and we can finally go into the tree. We climb up the tree, which is not super difficult. It's just simply a bunch of little birds coming across. You have to hop on the birds, hop your way up there. But then when you get to the top, you have to jump out the side, fall all the way down to get the key, and then redo the entire thing again. And so the game, it loves repetition. This game just loves to make you do things over and over and over for seemingly no point. But when we get to the top of the tree, there's a giant spider that comes down. He blows these little webs out at you, and hit the ground. They turn into like little web balls. You pick them up, you throw them at the spider. He falls down. Do a little ground pound on the spider, and at that point, he goes back up into the ceiling. He does the same thing again, except with more webs coming down at you. You do this 3 separate times, and at that point, you've defeated the spider, and you get the final music box for the game. So now we have all 5 music boxes. Then we take them back to the original temple. We play them for the mysterious figure or the god back there, and it's like one of the greatest songs in the game too. It's like a wonderful song Probably the best one until we get to the credits, but a great song here, which I guess makes sense because it's like, you know, the whole game is based on these music boxes. Why wouldn't they put the best song at this point? But at this point, you play the music boxes, and then the temple begins to crumble a little bit. And Wario gets a little afraid here. He takes off running to the right. He's running through all the screen here, and then all of a sudden, the mysterious figure begins to appear, and he becomes this giant clown-looking fella, and pretty terrifying looking. And he tells Wario that he was not the god of the universe. He did not create this little music box world, and he was actually just using Wario to find these music boxes, to unseal him from his destiny or his fate here, to come back to reconquer this world, and then even conquer Wario's world when that is over. And he says, thanks Wario for helping me unleash my evil plan here, and he's going to squish Wario like a bug. And so Wario, unbeknownst to him, was actually the bad guy in his own game. And so Wario wanted to try to correct the wrongs here. We're going to try to defeat the giant clown. And the giant clown, pretty darn easy little moves here. He basically comes down with his right arm, tries to hit you, or his left arm tries to hit you one at a time. You just simply pound or ground pound on the arms. They come off, pick it up, throw it at the head. Do that 4 times, you've won the battle. The only catch is if he comes down, he tries with both hands and grabs a hold of you. At that point, you actually have a game over. In a game where you cannot die, they actually do one part where you can pass away, and it's on the final boss, and you have a game over. But fear not, you can just hit continue and go back into the little temple here, and you can start right back where you left off. But for people who say you cannot die on Wario Land Part 3, you most certainly can, right here on the final boss. But once you defeat him, of course, little stars fly from the temple, and they fall down on all the enemies that you've been fighting the entire game, and they turn back into the citizens of the world of the music box. And so all the people you've been fighting against the entire game are actually just the citizens. And you talk to the citizens at this point, and they tell you more background on the story, that this evil demon had appeared, this evil creature, and he was trying to take over the world, and they sealed him in that temple or in that cave, and they sealed him with the 5 music boxes. And at that point, right before he got sealed in the cave, he turned everyone in the world into a monster or some sort of creature, and they were only fighting against Wario because they were trying to prevent him from getting those 5 music boxes from coming back to life. They were satisfied just simply being creatures and monsters as long as it meant sealing the evil one away forever. And so they thanked Wario for his service. They didn't think that Wario could actually win the battle. Very pleased with it. They give Wario all the treasure that he accumulated throughout the entire journey, and they send him back to his normal world. And at this point, Wario, of course, gets all of his treasure, gets back to his world, gives you a little thumbs up. Wario's pretty happy. I mean, he's saved the day. He's got some money. Wario, in his mind, living on top of the world. And at this point, the credits begin to roll. And he's got a little music box off to the side, and the credits are rolling. And holy cow, this song is phenomenal. This is one of the best songs on the Game Boy, and I loved hearing it. It starts off just simply the normal little music box tone, then it really kicks up to being a little bit more of a energetic tone as the credits rolling, sort of a victory song. Fantastic song, and I absolutely love it. And the game does come to a close here, though, with a little picture of the music box, and it just says end at the bottom, and you've officially beaten Wario Land Part 3. Now, you can go back into it, and you can collect every treasure chest, and you can go through that warped void, and there's probably like extra endings that you can get to. But the point of this particular challenge here is just simply to finish every Game Boy game, and so that means getting the credits to roll. So this is the finishing of Wario Land Part 3. Now, let's talk about it as an overall. Now, this is a really good game. I really do enjoy it for what it is. Quite a bit. It's a great platform puzzler. It's very creative, has all kinds of different powers that you can get. Very innovative as far as like how the map system works, as far as like having you go back to the levels over again based upon like powers that you've gotten, or level modifiers like the snakes or the vines or the winds, and so, or the sinking of the levels or the rising of levels. It's really cool how much thought went into this game to allow it to be such a unique experience. And so for that, I really do appreciate the game. However, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back and replay Wario Land Part 3 again, because I got very, very frustrated with this game. Because I mentioned a little bit earlier in the game, all the uniqueness as far as like the different powers you can get, the different enemies, the different abilities they do to you, it's all amazing when it first happens. But then as you get further into the game, all of those powers are just there, not to advance you, but just simply to hold you back and push you further back into the level to make you redo the level over and over and over, just simply trying to get to the end. I would rather it be where you just simply took damage and you can actually try to work your way through the level that way than simply having to repeat and travel through the level all over again constantly. It really does get old very, very fast. And even going back to some of the levels sometimes, there were 4 treasure chests to collect in every level. Sometimes it did feel like there was just sort of retreading the same ground you already went on. It reminded me a little bit of the game of Donkey Kong 64, which was a sort of a game that killed collectathons to a degree. But Donkey Kong 64 had you go back and replay these levels over and over and over, going through the same areas. And if you collect all 100 chests in this game, I really feel like you're going to be going down a very similar path inside this game. It's a fantastic game as far as like what it's able to do, how creative it was, all different powers, all the different abilities, how they, the map system is one of a kind, greatest map system I've seen in a long time, how it modifies itself. But at the same time, some of the stuff gets a little bit old, a little bit repetitive as it goes. I know some people say it's like one of the greatest Game Boy games of all time, and I'm not denying it's not a good game. It's just simply not going to be a game for me to go back and replay in the future. I would say if I was going to give it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Wario Land Part 3 a solid 7. I don't think it can go any higher than that, at least for me anyway, because it gets so repetitive toward the end, and I got so incredibly frustrated of just simply having to replay the levels over and over and over. But I can't give it anything less than a 7 because the design of the game, the creativity, innovations of it are really, really something. And so to me, great game, but a difficult game, and you will get extraordinarily annoyed as you're trying to finish it. But what do you all think? Is Wario Land frustrating to you? Have you finished Wario Land? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above. If there's a Game Boy game you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of that in the comments down below as well. And go out there, find a great game to play. Just simply have a great rest of the day.